Hey everyone. So this is gonna be a very original video. So I was born before the end of the last century on June 1st in Los Angeles, California. Now, I didn't spend too much time in Los Angeles because when I was around 2 or 3 years old, we moved away to someplace else. And then I entered preschool when I was 4 years old. I was in line for something, and the kids in line, they either pushed me out of the way or they said like move, or something like a little kid would say, and that it made me really scared of my peers. So this continued throughout all of elementary school. I never talked at all. Like, I was scared to talk, and the kids again ignored me. Now, whether or not that was because I was shy, maybe, but at that age I just assumed that everyone hated me. There was a boy in my class though, like in first or second grade. He was one of those kids that would go up to everybody. I remember this one time, we were coming up with group names for something we were doing, I forgot what it was. And one of the group names that he came up with, I don't know if I can say it the way he did, but I'm gonna try. The group name that he suggested was, "That is whack." It was the funniest thing ever. But besides that, I didn't have any friends. And then in 5th grade, I became friends with this girl. And we went to middle school right after, which is like 6th grade. And she became friends with they're kind of mean girls. But I didn't really say anything because it's like, well, those are her friends now, so like, what can I do about it? But to make a long story, and a story I've told many times before short, I went to a sleepover with her and her new friends for her birthday, which was a little bit into the school year of 6th grade. I said something stupid, then I came back to school, and then they decided they weren't going to be my friend anymore because of the stupid thing that I said. I was lonely the whole year, sat at lunch by myself. A couple times boys would pretend to ask me out as a joke. I just had so many overwhelming things. There was a boy who talked to me in class sometimes, and then on the very last day of school, he tried to ask me out. I didn't say a word to him the whole year. I just nodded my head yes or no, but because his friends were in the background laughing and it looked like he was about to start laughing himself, I said no. I mean, I wasn't interested in him anyway, and it made me feel very uncomfortable. And then 7th grade, through some sort of miracle, I finally started to find people who actually showed me what real friendship looks like. But then they had to go to a different high school, so we sort of separated. And then I became friends with a nice group of people because one of the girls in the group, we started talking to each other in 8th grade. I think it was something like AOL or MSN, or it was one of those old school type things. But then one of the girls from a sleepover I had in 7th grade, she was also at the same high school. And then in 10th grade, we became friends, and I sort of drifted away from the previous girl in her group. Like, we just sort of drifted apart. And then I became friends with the sleepover girl in 10th grade, and she's still my friend today, and a couple other girls that I'm friends with. In high school and in middle school, I developed crushes on guys for the wrong reasons, and I'll tell you why. In 8th grade, there was a boy who did like one nice thing for me. The idea of him liking me made me like him, and of course now I realize, like, just because a guy does something nice for you doesn't mean that they like you. But at that point, I was feeling very ugly. Guys ignored me, they asked me out as a joke, so I thought, what other reason could there be except him liking me for being nice to me? And then in high school, this is probably not news to anybody, but the majority of guys in high school are very, very stupid. Because again, I was like, what's the point? I'm not good looking enough for them, and I'm never gonna catch their attention with just my looks, so I might as well not even bother. But I do remember the one and only time I had a proper crush on somebody was one time. It was in elementary school. This boy, there was one time where I couldn't stop staring at him because he was so cute. I don't know what happened to him, but that was one of the few times I got a crush on a boy just because they looked cute. And then the rest of the time, I just put my head down. I just want to interject in this for a moment and say that just because you're not dating anybody in high school doesn't mean you're worthless. So after that, I went to college, and I thought it was going to be like a transformative, a transitional time for me, college, because people are like, I'm gonna become a new person, and that did not happen to me. So then I graduated after a little while, but then I was like, I don't know what to do with my life. The world is just so scary to me. And then somehow in 2017, I started to film myself with the camera, like practice what I was gonna say. And then I thought, why don't I just start a YouTube channel? I started to think about what really makes me happy, and the thing I realized makes me happy was movies, TV, just stories in general. But the story making I like the most has to do with film. And I also remembered that when I was in middle school, that 7th grade sleepover that I mentioned before, me and my friends and the people that were invited, we made like this little horror movie about these girls at a sleepover. I forgot what the plot was, but so then fast forward 2018, I finally decided to make my first YouTube video in March. I was very nervous in that first video. Sometimes when I'm making a YouTube video, I'm like, what am I doing? But then there are other times I think, what if this leads to something good? But either way, I'm having fun making these videos. The scripted videos, a little more than the vlog ones, but they're both have some sort of joy to them. So yeah, that's my life so far. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I will have a new video coming up soon in a new setting, so look forward to that. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!